Well, number one, I'm amazed of all the people who's here, all the buzz around Microsoft as a platform. That's one thing. There's a lot of things around Azure, the cloud, and so forth. But it's a really good place for Pexip to be, and also here together with Logitech with the things that we can actually present to the audience here. So I'm very excited to be here. It's a different place for us to versus the traditional AV community that we normally play in.
So I would echo a lot of what was said of that. Microsoft has 25,000 people here, people from 1,000 enterprises in 100 countries, and I think Microsoft has an incredible amount of buzz now as being a cool company in the enterprise space, whereas before I think they were looking at being more of a legacy company. Now there's just tremendous enthusiasm about where they're going. You know, sometimes it's good to be in the right place at the right time in some places. And I think what the video conferencing industry has talked about for years is having lower cost, simplicity, and rolling out video to everyone in enterprise. I think all the pieces are finally falling into place with Skype for Business, with networks being available, with Logitech products being so cost effective and high quality. So as all of these pieces converge, and then probably the last piece, this smart dock with Microsoft, enterprises now, I think they're beyond the barriers of thinking, should I roll out video at everyone? They're saying, how do I get it and when can I get it?
Yeah, so coming from then traditional, again, video conferencing where you maybe we're talking about tens or at the most hundreds of rooms and so on, the buzz here at the Ignite has been thousands, if not even 100,000s of Skype users on video and so on. How do we actually enable that? How do we roll that out? How do we distribute that around the globe and not only internally in one building in the US as an example? So it's a big change for us. So number one, I think the software, number one, we believe very much in that. That's why Pexip is here in the first place. Coming from the traditional video conferencing world where everything was about hardware and expensive boxes, software is changing. Pexip is disrupting the whole industry by doing this in software only and doing it on standardized servers and the virtualization tools out there. So it's absolutely changing the way that people both communicate and actually can use video conferencing.
Yeah, and software used to be, what, $10,000 for a hardware port not that long ago, and now because of software and Moore's Law, you're able to deliver that and leverage that and deliver these video calls at a fraction of the price.
Absolutely.
It's only been a few years difference, so it has a huge impact.
Yeah. Now we like to think that we're really disrupting that, and instead of talking about thousands of dollars per port or capacity, we're talking about some dollars per user per month, right?
Yeah, and you add in the cloud capability, whether it's Azure or Amazon, the ability to put these resources on demand. That's another huge change where it used to have a huge impact of having to send the technician out, install the box, get the data center all set up. You don't need to do any of that anymore.
No, and we see that from a Pexip support standpoint, but we also get a lot of good traction from the IT department within the different companies, right? They can now sit at home offices and control this globally from the one single place, right?
I would say for me, the big changes, if you looked at these conferences in the enterprise, not only a few years ago, people would say the cloud is coming, but it's not quite ready, and it's not ready for large enterprise. I would say at this show, there's a recognition that the cloud is ready, and I think nobody even questions it. They don't even really talk about having an alternative, so everything is focused on the cloud.
Yeah, I really want to echo that, to be honest. The way that you see Microsoft actually playing in this field now is very different than before. And there's no doubt that it is the cloud. We truly believe that everything is going to end up in the cloud as well, even though there's going to be a transition period and you're going to see hybrid solutions and so forth, which I think both of us are well positioned for. But the way that actually Microsoft stands out, I think is unique and different than before.
Well, I think in the video business, we've always talked about the aspiration of being almost as good as being there, but not quite being there. One story I had recently was with my son. He's 13 now. His name is Reed. And I asked him if he wanted to go to one of the basketball games, because we're big fans. We were watching it, Golden State Warriors. And I thought he'd be really excited about it. And then he looks at me for a minute and he thinks about it. He says, "No, I don't want to go, Dad." I said, "What do you mean you don't want to go? We love the games. I think it'd be really exciting." And I said, "Okay, you're going to have to explain to me why you're not interested." And he says, "Well, I know the tickets are really expensive, so we're probably going to be sitting really high up. So we can't, get as good a view on TV. And I know that we're going to have to drive there. There's going to be a lot of traffic, so I know it's going to take a while to get there. And then I love being able to pause the TV when I have to go to the bathroom and I don't want to have to miss the game. And then he's a little bit picky on food, so he goes, I like having my food at home versus being there. And then he goes, oh, and I love the announcers. They're great, the commentary and the way they're cutting back and forth. And I thought about it, I'm basically thinking that, well, he's saying that it's actually better to not be there, to be remote and use the electronic tools that we have, as opposed to being there in person. So I was thinking, why can't we apply the same approach to video conferencing? Why do we have to set our threshold as being only as good as there? Why can't we think of video as taking what we get from the World Cup or a basketball game or the Olympics and applying that to our business, and the next time people say, well, I'm not going to travel because I'd rather do the video call, hey, it's just better. That's our aspiration, and I think by setting our goal to be better than there, I think that just opens up the possibility to making video a much better and richer industry than where we are today.
I totally agree to that as well. I mean, it's one of the main reasons why Pexip is here in the first place. We truly believe that video is going to be the way we communicate, not only collaborate, which has been really the buzzword, but the way we communicate going forward. It's going to be the nerve. And without comparison, I just see my daughter, she's 13 years old. I mean, they're sitting 3, 4 together doing homework, they're just sitting on video, right? So they expect to see that. At the same time, we also believe that the traditional way, schedule a meeting, go into the meeting rooms, that's going to disappear. You're going to have video streams on at any time. You can jump in and out of conversations, basically like you do at the office, right? You go down the corridor, you go into the rooms, you go into meetings, you jump in and out of these things. I think it's going to change fundamentally the way that we actually work together.
Yeah, if I meet you and I say, hey, let's meet together, I don't say, oh, before we can talk, what's your PIN code?
Yeah, exactly.
It just doesn't make any sense, right?
And can we schedule and all those things, right?
I remember when I started my first job out of college, and I was used to using a Mac where we had a great user interface, and then they had WordPerfect, I think it was 5.1, where you had the blue screen, and I'm like, what the heck is this? I had to convince them to go out and buy a machine that had a graphical user interface. I think the millennials have a similar point of view, where they come in and they go, I'm on audio call? Like, how does that even make any sense? It seems to be part of the power of the cloud, is that it used to be every enterprise would have to figure things out on their own. They'd have to have their own local experts, but when you're in a cloud-based world, you really can outsource that capability to one big expert. Just like all of us don't have our own power plants at home, generally speaking. We get power from the electric company, and we don't know how it works. So enterprises can get all of that complexity, but they don't have to understand how it is. They just plug it in and they get delivered on demand, right?
And you consume it totally different, right? So it's so easy, so accessible. But I also want to make a point on this, is that we see that already changing. It's not only the next generation and they're going to put this demand on us. I have one of the largest banks in the world. They're rolling out these solutions now to 60,000 employees. Never heard about that before. And Microsoft is also a very good example, especially on the Skype for Business thing, right? But they have big enterprises rolling it out to hundreds and thousands of users and video enabling them. That would never happen 10 years ago in the AV industry, as an example.
Well, one of the things that the CEO of Logitech says is that when you get video collaboration in a meeting room down to the cost of a chair, you don't even think about it necessarily in terms of ROI or productivity. You just think about it as something that you do. You don't think about buying these chairs and whether I'm going to get that return. So video seems to be coming into that same realm where you just put it in there because it's something that people expect.
And you're also taking away silos. I mean, if you take one of the larger US organizations, I think they have like 10 or 12,000 licenses from us. They used to have a lot of things from Avaya, from Polycom, from Skype, from WebEx, and you get these silos, right? And instead of doing that, they deploy a solution, they brand it their own, they get a totally different ownership, they give it to every employee, just like you get a PC or a mobile phone and so forth. So it's there, it's on, it's available, you don't have to schedule it, it's ready to go. So it's kind of part of the package, and that changes everything basically. it actually starts with interoperability, which is on, sorry my language, but I actually kind of call it a little bit childish from an industry perspective. Why would I need to know what kind of system or what kind of technology you are on? I mean, when I call you, I don't know if you're on iOS, on Android, whatever. So interoperability is a given, and it's a commitment as well from Pexip. At the same time, when you talk about interoperability, it's not necessarily Microsoft to Cisco. It's actually just as well versus the web RTC world. And the industry been talking for 20, 25 years about, finally getting business to consumers, and it's happening now. We have some of the larger banks, we have some of the larger healthcare institutions, we have some of the larger education institutions. They're sitting on typically at Skype for Business themselves inside their own businesses, but they're using web RTC out to the consumers. And they basically doing the same thing as an Uber is doing with video technology. They're taking the Pexip technology and integrate it with their own, brand it, and then launch it out to their customers.
Well, and the interoperability, I think, has also changed in the way people thought about it. So it used to be you had a particular device, and that device was so expensive that you had to spend a lot of time interoperating with everybody else. Whereas today, if you can run on a standard computing device, and you can separate out the camera and the speakerphones from the computing device, you can load different software, whether it's Skype for Business, WebRTC, WebEx, etc. So you can switch back and forth in the same meeting and not have to go into a meeting room, or even more silly, kind of put a laptop in front of a $20,000 system and then have everybody huddle around it. So I think that's part of what Logitech is doing, provide interoperability on the device level by allowing to have multiple technologies there, in addition to what you're doing in the network by bringing it all together. So it's both things are making it easier.
So I think some of the things that we launched together as well, not just that, you basically can put your phone right on the camera and so on, you just get into your meeting. There are going to be devices and technology that actually helps you get into your meeting. They know where you are, they know what you're doing, and just make that super simple, like we've shown together. I think that's going to be the clue as well.
That's a good point, because our offering at Easy Join, the thought behind that was, it's not just about speeds and feeds that people want. They want the simplicity of making a meeting go faster. Probably the most important thing. So what we've done together, where you just stick a phone onto a Logitech device, it knows who you are, it goes into your calendar and launches the meeting. People look at it and they think it's magic, and it kind of is, but they don't have to know the complexity. I think this is just the beginning of a long adventure on the video space, and what I would say is, the way we think about it is it's really even 2D video conferencing. So there's a push to get video in every room. I like to say, as Bill Gates said, he wanted to put PCs into every desktop, and people said he was crazy. I think we're on a mission to take video, which is only, I think, about 2% of conference rooms, and put them in every room. But beyond the 2D, there's going to be a 3-dimensional phase where there'll be holograms, where I might be able to beam in and be sitting here in 3D versus 2D. And that's probably the next wave that will come after that. So even though I think we're really excited about where we are, I think there's a lot that we can still do to make video and the experience of remote collaboration even better than we're doing it today.
Yeah, I like to echo that. And then, because now finally it can scale, it's not full of obstacles and workarounds and gateways and all those boxes and things that were actually holding us back the last 25 years. It's happening as we speak, and I agree with you. It's just started. It's just starting.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Let's go.
Yeah.
Okay, and